How you doing, guys? How many of you out there have friends that know every single person that you've ever spoken to your entire life? That know every little place that you've ever been? If not your whole life, of just a year. You don't, because it's impossible. Apparently, though, when you become one of Jehovah's Witnesses, you need to go in with a resume explaining this. One thing I've always been good at was keeping certain social ties separate. There's a lot of reasons for that. My work associates never mingle with my outside friends. My friends from this side of town never meet my friends on this side of town. Basically because it's too much drama. Too many personalities just don't get along. Some years back, when I was married, my ex-wife and my wife at the time and I decided to have a party. We were newlyweds at the time. And at this point in time, we didn't have friends as a couple. We knew couples, but they were either her friends or they were my friends. Well, we decided to have a party at the house. She invited her friends, I invited mine. It was not a good mix. And we never did it again. Since then, I've decided to keep things at a distance. The other thing is, when you get too much of the same people around you constantly, you end up getting on each other's nerves. Sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of distance. You don't want people to be that close all the time. People that you're very fond of, you could really get to dislike pretty quick when you find out just how many differences you actually have. When I started studying, and I've made a point of mentioning this before, I decided there was no point in cutting off my outside ties. I never made a secret about it either. There was no point to it. I had one JW woman who used to stick her nose in my business while I was studying. I wasn't even baptized at the time. And she saw me at the grocery store and she says, you really need to spend all of your time with Jehovah's people. Okay. I says, Jehovah is the creator of the universe, right? And she goes, yes. He created everybody on the planet, right? And she goes, yes. Well, there you go. We're all Jehovah's people. I turned around and walked away. That didn't go over so well. It was about 2009. Things started getting a little bit hairy on the outside. Things were going okay on the inside, but by 2010, my personal life, my professional life all took a nosedive. Started getting real down in the dumps, was really depressed that year because everything was like a domino effect. Everything just toppled. This is when I started spending more time with Jehovah's Witnesses than I ever had. I started auxiliary pioneering, which that in itself was a mistake. And I was surrounded by witnesses constantly. The happiest people in the world, and why was I getting more and more depressed? Things went on for a year, and it was about 2011. I was really down. Everything. It was getting so redundant. Let's face it, when you talk to Jehovah's Witnesses, even if you're socializing, they're extended meetings. What do they talk about? They talk about the public talk. They talk about the upcoming convention. They talk about brother so-and-so's part on the ministry school. They never get their head out of that watchtower bubble, and that was driving me absolutely out of my mind. And this is one reason why I like to diversify. Jehovah's Witnesses like to call it leading a double life, and I've heard many JWs say it, and I've been accused of it. As a matter of fact, I think it was Jay the comedian just recently did a video, it was within the last few months, did a video on Jehovah's Witnesses that lead double lives. My thing was, nothing was secret, but the way I felt, if something was not your business, I wouldn't tell you. I didn't look at it what I was doing as leading a double life. It was living a private life. Try to explain the difference to a Jehovah's Witness, the difference between keeping secrets and leading a private life. I mean, I actually had one pioneer shortly after I was baptized, went to the elders and demanded to know everything about me. They came up and told me this, and I'm like, good luck with that. It ain't happening. The funny thing was, I don't know everything about this one, that one, or any of them. So why the hell would they make a point they want to know everything about me? What's not your business is not your business. Well, by 2011, I was getting really down. It was just getting to me. I needed some space away from these people. It's pretty bad when you've got to travel out of state for a few days just to get away from them, when they start following you around. I had one witness used to show up. He knew where I was at certain times within a week, and he would show up. Now, the one reason I never liked to intermingle, I didn't introduce my friends on the outside to the witnesses, nor did I introduce the witnesses to my friends on the outside. Because, first of all, my friends on the outside were not interested. Many of them are not religious at all. And the witnesses, what do they want to do when they see you with your friends on the outside? They want to do what they do best and witness. And you just sit there like this. The mix was horrible. By 2011, I was fed up. And this is even before I found out about what the crimes the organization was hiding. I didn't know anything about the child molestation within the organization. I knew nothing about their affiliation with the UN just yet, but that was coming pretty close. I didn't know a whole lot that the organization was into. But I had yet to see JW Broadcasting. I'm trying to remember what year that started. I really wasn't into the broadcast anyways. I figured whatever I was going to hear at the meetings. I needed some distance. I needed some space. Well, I went to a convenience store one day, just get a Coke or something, and ran into an old friend of mine. It was a female friend that was an on-again, off-again person that I would hang out with over the years. And we started hanging out, and I started going over to her house after work and stuff and spending the nights over her house. This went on for about a year and a half. Now, she knew I was a witness, but it never really came up. The great thing was she was not a smothering type of person. We would hook up a couple times a week, sometimes just once a week. Sometimes there were weeks where we really didn't talk. But it was a great setup because I don't like being smothered. She didn't like being smothered. Well, sometime in 2012, 2013, a few things had come out. And the witnesses finally realized that I was leading a double life. Well, there was a judicial committee formed. This is my first one. Nothing much came of it, but I was asked a few questions about it, because I guess I was seen leaving her house early one morning. I don't know if they have Jehovah's spies watching, but that was apparently the case. So I had nothing to hide, and I says, yeah. Well, one of the elders says, well, do you love this girl? I'm like, no. And he's like, well, why are you spending so much time with her? Obvious reasons. I like her. One of the other elders asked me, did you have sex with this girl? I pulled a Bill Clinton. Had to. In all honesty, I wouldn't have answered that question to anybody because it was none of their business. And I'm thinking to myself, dude, do I ask you which way you point your wife when you plow her? You know, there's just questions I don't feel the need to answer. And they said, are you going to stop seeing her? And I'm like, no, there's no reason to at all. Well, they were up against the wall. They didn't know what to do. I was in good standing at the time, so disfellowshipping me was out of the question. Well, they had to do something, so what did they do? They privately reproved me. They took away some of my privileges. Imagine how down I was when I found out I could no longer scrub the Kingdom Hall toilets. One of the other elders had a suggestion. Well, if you're not going to break it off with her, maybe we could talk to one of the sisters and give her a Bible study. And I'm thinking, bring her in? And he's like, yeah. Would there be a problem with that? And I'm thinking to myself, well, part of her appeal was that she was not part of this organization. She was the main reason I could get away from this organization. And that they couldn't understand. Well, it wasn't too longer after that before I was finally mocked. And I got most of my privacy back, but for the remainder of the time in there, I was accused of leading a double life. And it's like, the one thing I never do, I don't pry into people's business. I don't ask questions. There was one dude I was out in service with one day, and my phone rang. Well, I didn't answer it, but I'm looking to see. And he says, "Who is it?" And I says, "You expecting a call on my phone?" I mean, that was kind of, it's like, why would you ask me who's calling me on my phone? I got him back about a week later, and his phone rang. I says, "Who is it?" But he looked at me and says, "It's none of your business." You know, like, you're right. Get the point? But they feel the need that everything in your private life should be transparent. Nobody's life is 100% transparent. I don't care if you're the average Joe on the street, if you're the Pope, if you're Jehovah's Witness, or anybody. There are some things that you are entitled to keep to yourself. And Jehovah's Witnesses, you cause more damage by prying, but the one thing you need to do is learn to mind your own business. Anyways, guys, that's all I have today. I will talk to you soon. You guys have a good week.